What's up? What's up?
Not much.
Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes,
Yeah.
sir. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Looks like you got a new headset.
Me?
Yeah.
No.
No, Luke.
Who? Me? Who? You? Me?
Luke.
Me?
Yeah.
And a new mic.
Yeah, I got a new mic. Yeah, I had to ditch that old thing because it was my son decided to slam it against the desk a few times.
That'll do it.
And it was done. It was cooked. Let me tell you. Let me know if I need to change the volume on this at all.
That's good.
No, sounds good.
All right.
So
I finally used that that little mixing board I bought like 4 months ago. So I got this whole thing rigged up on my desk.
Nice.
That
Yeah,
works.
that's it. We've been looking at that's the Xenix or whatever, right? The Behringer's.
Yeah. The USB in.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna get one of those too.
Oh, it's worth it for $50, and you can do any.
What did we buy? We bought it for this.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's like, hey, let's start podcasting. I'm like, sure, I'll start buying shit. And it's like, oh, life took over.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does that.
Well, we are doing it just a different way.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just took a little bit of time to get it there.
Yeah. Oh, and I just saw a story a moment ago that it ties into stuff that me and you, Luke, have talked about before.
Oh my God. Could be anything.
The petrodollar.
You talking about the currency for oil?
Yes.
Or is it? Yeah.
Venezuela has stopped accepting U.S. dollars.
Oh yeah. That's surprising.
So.
Yeah, and India's been talking about that too. I don't know if they actually made the switch or not, but India was looking at switching to euro, I think, as their base currency. This is probably about a year. This is maybe a year, 6 months to a year ago, which would have been a huge hit.
Venezuela says they'll accept won, yen, rupees, rubles,
anything
euro,
but dollar.
Anything but dollars.
Yeah, when you start talking currency, that's where I'm kind of like, hey,
that's how you keep the CIA out of Venezuela.
Let's talk some more about this Forex stuff because everybody loves to hear about that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, to me, it's just like a while back we were talking about China and Russia both switching to a combo of the yuan and gold. It's like they're buying. I think they're buying oil for gold I forget. I have to go back and look at the story again, but they're trying to move away from the dollar.
Yeah, and let's when discussing the yuan, let's be sure that we're talking about the Chinese currency because the South Korean currency is also called the yuan.
So is the hot dog vendor,
and so is a hot dog. I was just doing the research on that. Yeah. I was cramming to the last minute on this one.
What's up, Steve? What's up, Steve?
Yeah, Steve's here. All right, I'll go and set up Facebook Live.
Steve, fuck. I was supposed to send Steve a text earlier, and I completely forgot about it.
Steve Halston will be sending you a text shortly.
I'll just send the damn thing now. I have 2 minutes.
Or you could just tell him here.
I could, but I need him to be able to respond.
Oh, okay.
Probably,
we do have a chat box that we could use.
Yeah, I can't have this all over the interwebs.
Okay, fair enough.
Let's see. What notification do I have? Don't care.
Been looking at a couple of other different platforms too. There may be one that maybe is a little bit better than this. I was kind of burnt with the inability to add somebody to the show last week, so I've been kind of browsing around.
Yeah, that's really weird, man.
I mean, y'all are of course both online, so with y'all, all I see is unpublished, which would knock y'all out. And then I show invite live on there with Steve.
Yeah.
So
almost like as soon as Kurt logged in, it was like maybe something with his ticket to the webinar or something just killed it. I don't know.
Don't know.
Who knows? We may never know.
Yeah.
You know. Of course, it also could have been, the website may have tested his hardware and went, nope.
Maybe. But there's one company called Zoom that offers like this type of stuff for probably about half of what we're paying for right now. So
that's always a good thing.
I'm gonna play with their dashboard a little bit before I pull the trigger on that.
Yeah. Did you what was it? Did you ever get an answer from that one group? Because I saw you had asked what they were using.
Oh, that AWOL Nation or AWOL.
I don't remember what
Academy.
it was.
Yeah. They sent me what they use for the video editing, and I'm like, I don't need
it was like oh God.
You're stalking me and shit. Oh my God.
No, we'll talk about this offline. Never mind.
That's fine. How you want to do it?
Yeah, just there's some shitty opinions.
Some
I thought that's what this was for.
Yeah, but not on this.
Well, we talk about two different things because
we're talking about the same thing, but a different group that I've been talking to about the same thing. I guess.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And we are talking about like platforms for video, right?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So I'm tracking.
Yeah, man. Oh, my balding is really pronounced tonight.
It is. It's nice.
I like it. Yeah.
I can see my reflection.
That's right.
Oh. All right. So here we go again. It's 9:00. We'll go ahead and get this ball started. We have we got Steve. God bless you, Steve. You're becoming a heavy hitter here. We have to start bringing you on. What?
There's John Bryce as well.
He just popped in. Hey, John. All right, good deal. So yeah, we were just kind of shooting the shit a little bit in regards to video platform. But again, for those of you who have not seen this before, this is Uncivil Liberty. My name's Luke, one of the co-hosts and one of the post writers. And we also have Halston, who also co-host and writer, and Horace as well, co-host and writer on the blog. If you haven't checked out the blog, it's uncivilliberty.com. Pretty easy to remember. Not a lot of content on there. We're struggling to get some fresh and new things out there. And also, if you're not on Facebook, check us out on Facebook as well. Uncivil Liberty Show, I believe, is what we're tagged in over there. That's one thing I did realize is when kind of listening to some of these other radio programs, they actually plug their shit, and that's something we have not been doing. We have not been plugging our stuff. So if somebody finds us on the internet, they're gonna be like, "Oh, what are these three assholes who are just talking heads on the screen?" All right, so that's how you find us. Facebook. Yeah. We have Twitter, right? But I think
we do have Twitter, but it's kind of pointless until we have some followers. So
okay, yeah. Well, we can always scream into the abyss.
Yeah.
Like
we're doing now.
Okay, yeah. All right, fair enough. At least we got some innocent bystanders here.
That's right.
All right. So we're gonna bring up the topic of North Korea. This whole North Korea thing has been flying around for probably about 2 months, back and forth one way or the other. And chat's getting me all confused here. And so, there's been a lot of more saber rattling in regards to coming out of the federal government as well as other governments around the world as far as what to do with North Korea. For those of you who don't know, me and Halston are both veterans. I was actually stationed in Korea. This is a topic that we find extremely interesting, and we probably spent about an hour between the three of us discussing just the different ways this will play out. So we'll just kind of keep this North Korea related as a whole, explain a lot of things that you may not necessarily know about what's going on, what the culture is like over there, and just different aspects that people may not be thinking about when they're advocating for us to actually start deploying troops and dropping bombs. So Halston, you want to kind of head this up? You seem very antsy about about jumping in there and talking all about North Korea. So go for it.
Yeah, I would say as much as you guys confess to being fascinated with Russia, I'm pretty fascinated with North Korea too. I think it's just one of those few countries that are left that are just completely shut off from the rest of us. And I think that's one of the things that Americans and most of the West fall short on is really understanding the culture, not just of South Korea, or not just of North Korea, but South Korea as well. And I would like to point out, I mean, this is my opinion. I'm obviously not a foreign policy expert, but this is definitely
to me you are.
Yeah. This, in my opinion, this is a standoff. Right? It's not a crisis. There are lots of people calling it North Korea crisis, the nuclear crisis, this crisis. It's really a standoff, and it is saber rattling. It's a little more violent saber rattling, but not any more violent than we've had in the past. I think the worst part of this is probably the missile tests. If I am correct, I think it was they've done 18 this year so far, but they keep getting progressively more violent and closer to a realistic attack on the U.S. soil, whether it be one of our outlying territories or the mainland. And there's also some debate on whether or not their missiles could really hit us. I think some scientists said it could. The last one that they launched could have potentially hit New York, and then some of them are saying that it's still going to dive bomb once it hits the east coast of Japan. That they just don't have the technology yet. But that's one of those things that, you know, we kind of play armchair quarterback on North Korea, and we have to go based on what the media tells us, what the government tells us, or whatever. I think you summed it up. They're not just a bunch of stupid poor people. That's not what North Korea is. They're a country full of people just like we are. They're just different, and they're under a different regime, and they're under a different philosophy.
And they're very, very smart, poor people. Let me just say that. I mean, the people who aren't affiliated with the government, I guess from what I understand from the way our units, and none of this is top secret intelligence. This is kind of what they were briefing us, is that, you know, the way their culture is over there, that if you want a good job, make sure your family's going to eat, you're going to serve in the military. That's the elitist class over there. They're the ones who get paid the most, get the most food, get the best housing. Whereas then you have the farmers who are the agriculture base, which is bottom rung. Those are the ones who go through suffer the most during famines, who don't eat, and are the ones that are turned into slave labor a lot of times for the regime itself.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what I like in North Korea, like current North Korea. Now, this could go all the way back up to the war or prior to the Korean War, but I like in North Korea to the way the United States was pre and during World War II, where you have these sectioned off classes of people. You have farmers who they're responsible for producing all the food in the entire country, and they now in North Korea, it's like what we had here during World War II. We have the stock market, and that booms, and we have manufacturing, and that booms, and you have agriculture, that booms. You have all the same stuff that they do. It's just on a much smaller scale, and it's all controlled by the government. So that's really why we don't hear news coming from North Korea other than what they want us to hear. So how can we really form such a negative opinion of North Korea other than by looking at their Cartman-esque leader? It's really tough to form a solid opinion on that rather than just knee-jerk reactions. Let's nuke them.
Yeah. Right. And that's something that I've done a lot. I've done a lot of research. What little information you can actually get in regards to North Korea. That one of the things that concerns me the most is we know so little about North Korea. We know so little about the terrain of North Korea, and what we do know, it's one of those countries that's prepared for war. This is probably the most prepared for war country out there. South Korea, when I was out there, South Korea is deeply entrenched. You'll be walking through the woods and you will see for 1,000 yards, concrete bunkers and trenches facing the north with turret mounts, just ready to go. We haven't North Korea's 10 times history yet. They are geared for war. They have been since the creation of the country itself. And so, thinking that we're going to be able to throw a couple boots on the ground and just march across.
For a while, but I was brushed up on some interesting facts that I didn't really know. And he was a battalion commander that was in charge of this, lieutenant colonel. And in the skirmishes, they captured some people, and one of them was. They captured 2 Chinese prisoners, but they were from 2 different divisions. And he sent this up the chain to the command higher up at brigade or division or whatever, and they came down there, basically didn't give a shit. And here he's trying to tell them that, look, we're not just fighting North Koreans, we're fighting not only are we fighting North Koreans, we're fighting the Chinese. And not only are we fighting the Chinese, we're fighting 2 fucking divisions, and we're down here at battalion level. And battalion back then was about 2,500 people. It's a lot less now, but back just to give our viewers some reference. And that's sort of what I think. This can kind of segue into our opinions on what may happen, but that's the way I feel that this would happen in today's terms. We know so little about the country. We don't know what's already there. Are there already 2 Chinese divisions there? I mean, that's really hypothetical, but who knows?
Yeah, Horace, what do you got on this?
I disagree with y'all on a couple of points, especially I think we know a lot more about the terrain and capabilities than you would think. The technology between photographic satellites and radar satellites and electronic communications intercept satellites, I doubt there's, much that goes on there we don't know. Right, because I mean, radar satellites can see not just ground level; they can see underground to a degree.
To an extent.
Tombs have been found using because of that radar imagery like that from satellites. So I think we know a lot more about the terrain there than you might expect. As far as the culture, I don't know a lot about it. I've typically, when it comes to Asia, I've stayed in more southerly regions.
Okay.
Thailand,
Mm-hmm.
that part,
in
Japan, and that's more because
and we lost you too. It's just me, everybody.
For me, with the exception of Russia, primarily.
Well, I don't know if Horace is going to hear this, but I think I definitely agree. Can you hear me now, Horace?
Man, my internet's in the same.
What I was going to say was I agree with you on what they know. When I say what we know, I'm not speaking for Luke, but when I say what we know, I mean we as the American people. I really don't. I can't speak for the government.
Horseback.
I mean, I probably could, but I get in trouble, right? But yeah, I think you're right about what we know as far as what we can see with electronic surveillance and satellite surveillance. I would say what we don't know is, or what there's no real way for us to know is people.
Yeah,
it's like the Afghanis and the Iraqis. When your technology is so good, you start dumbing down technology to beat technology, and I think that North Koreans probably realize that as well.
That's possible, but like I said, I don't know about much about the culture over there. One of my best friends, though, did spend some time over there. Her father was in the military, and she went over to visit him. She spent, 6-9 months over there, and she said, the people of South Korea, at least, were very warm and welcoming. Very polite. They like Americans.
Quick question.
Now,
where was she at in South Korea? And how long ago was this?
A year or two ago, maybe 3.
Okay.
And wherever it was, it's whatever base over there has the Apaches.
That's Osan, right?
There's a few.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's not. I want to say it's within 2 hours of Seoul.
Okay.
And 1 to 2 hours from Seoul. She wasn't in Seoul, but going into Seoul was not a big deal. But she said, the
That's
people over
that
there
goes
were,
for
Gary
anywhere around here as well.
sounds
I mean,
like-
Huntsville's completely different. If Huntsville is your
the
only,
people over there were
if that's
very
your
warm and
only
welcoming.
knowledge of what an army base is like, you're
for the most part,
well,
they
you
like
are,
the soldiers.
You're all kinds of fucked up because that is
But
not
the
that's not
closer
a
you got
military
to the
installation.
base,
Because it's
the
just like
less
that
they
in
like
El Paso and Fort
Americans.
Bragg, North Carolina, and Fort Drum, Fort Sill. It's all the same. They all hate soldiers. It's not their fault.
Your reference, yeah. Well,
as far as
if you look at the culture, we'll kind of move this into I guess the cultural aspect, especially South Korea. The experience when I was there is that the people in the north typically are some of the more of the older crowd. The younger crowd tend to migrate a little further south to Seoul and even further down the peninsula. And the older audience is a little more appreciative of American soldiers being there. A lot of these are like older. I'm saying they're like in their 50s, 60s, and 70s, so they have a little more of a recollection of the goings-ons, and maybe not the Korean War itself, but the rebuilding afterwards. It's the younger audience that does not like the U.S. presence there, and that's typically the case in a lot of countries. And we saw this past week massive protests in Seoul in regards to all this additional hardware being sent over there, the THAAD missile systems. But even when I was there, riots would break out because they wanted the Americans to go home. And there were times that the American soldiers were assaulted in the streets by South Korean civilians because they didn't want us there. Can't really say I blame them too much, but the overall concept, and talking with a lot of Korean soldiers as well as Korean civilians in South Korea, was that the general consensus is that if North Korea invades, we're not going to fight, which is a huge red flag for me, because this is coming from soldiers who are saying, I'm not going to fight. I could be killing a member of my family that I don't know, and I don't want to do that. And so if you look at it from just the societal aspect of it, the cultural aspect of that
maybe not
mindset, it's that
there's Horace.
The people want to be unified. They want the two countries to come back together, and there's
what the hell's happening? Yeah, I don't see your video either. I can now, yeah.
And we lost Luke. Yeah, you have a little spinny icon. I can hear your voice, but no video.
Yeah, I really don't know what's going on.
I don't know.
But that's that was my experience.
Yeah, war is
big
business.
The interaction with the South Korean people, they're not hot for war. The Americans are more hot for war than the South Koreans are. It is.
Yeah. Well, honestly, yes, it is. Honestly, for me, and this is the thing I said earlier, I think I don't know about for us, but for to a certain degree for that region, something that would introduce a great deal, I think, introduce some more stability in that region. And it would definitely, this is something that would benefit China. If China was smart, they would just roll on in to North Korea, crush them.
No, that won't happen. That's because it's
and
one
hand
of
it
those
over to
things kind
South
of like
Korea.
if you look at it,
unified again.
I guess the best way I could describe the analogy is an army soldier and a Marine get into a fight on the street. That's fine. But if somebody starts beating up a Marine, soldier's going to jump in. And there's an internal camaraderie inside the communist brotherhood, that they're like, we can pick on each other, that's fine, but when someone else messes with us, we got each other's back. And so you're not going to see China do a full-on invasion and overthrow the government. Honestly, I think Russia would be the one who would be the more apt to do that. But they wouldn't do that. China's stance on North Korea is kind of like that annoying little 3-year-old brother who is constantly throwing temper tantrums, but it's your little brother, and so you're going to take care of him. But you might slap them around a little bit behind closed doors. And China's the only country that has North Korea's back. And China has already said that if we as Americans initiate any type of invasion or any show of force against North Korea, I want to say
this was in May or
without
April.
provocation,
fact check this or whatever.
They're going to go to war with us
when it was around the first
to defend North Korea,
the first ICBM test of the year, and that was when the saber rattling first started, and that Trump was heavy with the rhetoric at that time, like he is now, but he was also very, very heavy-handed up front. And the Chinese actually rolled a couple of divisions down to the North Korean border, and a lot of the media picked it up as, oh, China's getting ready to go slap their little brother around. But Chinese intelligence agencies leaked that wasn't down there. They weren't going down there to slap their little brother around. They were going down there to defend their little brother. Yeah.
To reinforce. Yeah.
I mean, from a tactical standpoint, just doing with North Korean leaders.
Not really, though.
Because
if you look at it from the people, the purpose,
makes tactical sense.
The
for
fuel behind
China.
the Central Party in China is controlling the people. And so if they feel that the Central Party went against their own in another country and then turn that land back over to the evil capitalists, they're going to lose control of their own people inside China. And they can't really afford to do that. It's a military of 2.2 million people in the Chinese military versus a grand total of 1.3 billion people. There's no way that they're going to be able to handle an uprising of when the people start questioning whether or not their belief system and their government is flawed.
Yeah, I mean, I can see what Horst is trying to say, especially if there was some kind of propaganda dropped off on, especially like if you were to take the entire.
That's the only way people go along with anything over
there. And just in such a way
only send out your propaganda that's saying
because
the dirty Americans are coming to attack unless we liberate North Korea.
No.
And I think it probably does make tactical sense to move in and take over North Korea and say, look, here, you guys take the shit, or just take it over and say, this is mine. This is now Southern China or whatever. I think you're right that it makes sense, but it's definitely not practical.
Well,
yeah. Northern to Southern China.
That's a possibility as well. Again, I don't know, because the military of China would have no problems doing it. I mean, they can just roll in and boom. And the reason I say it makes really good tactical sense is because, especially giving them North Korea back to South Korea, having a unified country again. As part of the deal,
already pulled back
South Korea has
everything
to throw out
that's
the
north
US.
of Seoul, so there's nothing really sitting too close to DMZ. I think the closest you're going to see is maybe Camp Casey, which is in Tungduchung, which is probably about, I don't know, maybe 10 or 15 miles north of Seoul. That's where Second ID was headquartered. But as I was leaving, they were pulling Second ID, the forward units back out. So there's not as many bases there now as there were. Well, I guess 10 years. Good God, 10 years ago, more than 10 years ago. But I just I look at it, and Horace, how strong do you think their military is as far as manpower? Yeah. Do not Google it, Halston. Do not Google it.
North Korea?
I'm not sure what the population.
Roughly
the size, the active duty army is 1.2.
What's their population?
In North Korea. I got Luke's picture back. Well, Luke's still dead.
Yeah, can you hear me?
All right. Can you hear me?
All right, cool. Yeah, so it's 1.2 million is what the standing army is right now. The active.
So it's
China,
1.2 million.
outside-
That
China?
was the intel I was given when I was briefed on North Korea.
And we've lost everybody again. For
Yeah.
the moment.
Because you think about it, the only way that you're going to actually make a good living for
Yeah.
your family is to be in the military.
That's one of those things where
You know, you're gonna
probably
be in
don't
the
know for
military.
sure, but I would say that's about right.
And
Now, how accurate is that?
yeah, right.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, again, how accurate
It's kind of like
is
Georgia.
that?
You split it down the middle. Half of them are farmers. Half of them join the military. You know, I mean, that's about. I'd say that's about right.
Because, I mean, mm. Well, you know,
yeah, no, and I'll give you
I mean,
that.
for me,
definitely.
it comes down to what
but
is the
there's,
source of
you
the
know, it's
information.
not
Because
it's
it
not an
goes-
army of
it makes me
35,000
think of,
people.
you know, talking about Russia
you know,
again,
like
where
Mongolia.
a lot
it's
of
we're not
stuff
talking about
where
a
we
bunch of
made
backwoods
mistakes,
farmers with
with
pitchforks here. We're
Russia
talking
and
about
figuring them
a
out during the
huge
Cold War
force, and if you combine that
is,
with
you know,
the,
we
the
had
number of active
spies
duty,
inside
the
that were
2.2 million
sending us
people,
the same information the
2.3 million in
Politburo was
China.
getting.
You know, that's a pretty
Problem is,
formidable army.
they were being lied
That's
to.
that's you know, you combine those, you're almost looking 5-1 odds against, you know, so 5 of those their soldiers versus 1 of ours. That's really tough to beat,
Oh, I know.
even with stronger air support.
Yeah. I mean, I honestly,
Yeah,
it depends on where that battle's fought, in my opinion. If it's fought on the lands of North Korea, I really don't think that. I don't think too many countries would
Yeah.
be able to even hold a candle to what we
Yeah.
have. Again, that's me not knowing what they have. But even in conventional war,
Yeah, and that's
although we're not
one
very
thing that
well
no
versed
one
at it anymore,
has really talked about.
I still think it
Is
would
that
be really
the only
difficult
way
for,
to feasibly
for them to
send
make
troops
a sizable dent in what
across
and what we can do.
across the DMZ is going to be through the wintertime, because everything around there is rice paddies that are fertilized with human shit, and they do this because it makes it harder for tanks to get across. So to do it
Right.
do it in the spring or summer, it's muck and mire. So you have to do it in the wintertime. The thing is that our military is conditioned for
Yeah.
I guess more desert based warfare, not cold weather warfare. Urban. Yeah. That's, I mean, like the winter times up there are brutal. I mean, because you got to think about it, it's right there next to Siberia. It's catching
cold as fuck
everything.
in
And I've
Afghanistan,
pulled
don't get me wrong,
many
but it's not
a
a
night
cold
sitting
forest.
there in the cold of Korea, pulling guard duty, realizing this place sucks in the wintertime, because it's one of those environments that we aren't necessarily equipped per se as far as personnel training to fully, unless you're getting mountain division guys to go in and do everything, or people from the guys from Alaska. We're not overly equipped to be able to handle a true boots on the ground and, push across the border type invasion with what we have and the training that we have. So to get the people skilled up to be able to actually handle this, months on end. But either way, you're still looking at a massive slaughter fest, because the military hasn't really been able to truly map out all the idiosyncrasies of the terrain and been able to adjust for them, as well as the North Koreans who've lived there their entire life. Can you hear me? This is getting ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, I disagree with you there for sure. I think it will be a slaughter fest the other way around. I just think that when you take our combat troops who are fighting, because this is one of the big differences that I've seen between a voluntary force and an involuntary force, is you have guys, when you son of a bitch, can you hear me? Yes. Yeah, it's pretty rough. But so when the difference between a voluntary force and an involuntary force. Although
Yeah, I know, it's
North
true.
Korea,
It's true.
North Korea is
And I
mainly,
think Luke.
I guess, voluntary. You got a couple of choices. But when you strip away the people that are just going
Yes,
to
it
war for college, there's a lot of dudes that just are badass dudes that I don't believe the Chinese or the North Koreans have. I've seen videos of the North Korean special forces. They use rotary magazines. There's not a motherfucker in the entire United States military that would trust that shit because they're garbage. I mean,
Yeah, we're talking in absolute hypotheticals right now.
We have, when you line up apples to apples and you say, yes, they have a lot more apples than we do. But when you line up apples to guys who love to eat apples, we have a lot more of those. And that's why I can't buy into the Slaughterfest idea. I think it would be a shit show. There's going to be a lot of people dead. It's going to be Vietnam-esque. There's going to be tens of thousands that are going to die. Well, I hope not. I hope none of them die. Right? I hope it doesn't happen. But right. But I think our cream of the crop destroys their cream of the crop plus.
Yeah. Well, I mean, to me, I have a couple of questions because, again, I don't know much about North Korea. How suitable is it to? Because I've never been in the military. Okay, so all my military knowledge is from reading and studying.
Are you kidding me? I could not keep my Humvee running. My ambulance kept breaking down because it's so damn.
But most of our modern
it's gonna fuck up somewhere.
Approach warfare as the nation we are today. It is very heavily.
I don't think it's very suitable at all.
Mechanization,
like Luke said. I mean,
and
even our most capable vehicles are not going to be.
How suitable?
They're not going to be happy. I mean, air superiority. When people say military grade,
how suitable is it to our mechanized warfare?
I laugh every time someone says, "Oh, it's military grade aluminum." Definitely,
airborne,
guaranteed piece of shit. Guaranteed.
Airborne.
But I mean, we have some cool vehicles that are in the pipeline that could probably trudge through that stuff, but the mechanization part, no. Air superiority, we're going to have that with any country on the planet.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
see.
Yeah, I was going to address that too because Go ahead.
You give 5 of them guys a sharp stick versus our most superior
brings a whole other thing around. Then
it's still
if our mechanization isn't going to work, we're going to be more dependent, literally boots on the ground infantry. So,
yeah, it does.
So,
yeah.
When you start getting into that, I do not doubt that our troops are probably better trained. However, there's an old military saying, which I'm sure you're both familiar with: quantity has a quality of its own.
Yeah, and that goes back to what I was saying
5 to 1 odds. That's
Chosin Reservoir. In that battle,
some,
they were outnumbered roughly 5 to 1 or 6 to 1, something like, depending on who's counting. And the Chinese overran the Army side. I can't remember if they overran the Marine Corps side because they were on different sides of the reservoir. But basically, the Army, what was left of them, they just took off running across the frozen lake over to the Marine side, and they were yanking people out of headquarters like, hey, come shoot if you can pull the trigger. But I still think those guys were different shit eaters than we have today. Like, we have some real shit eating son of a bitches and they train in the jungle, and I mean, we still train in the jungle. We still do I don't do shit.
Well, you don't have to be in the military.
They still do ruck marches. They still
train. I mean, it helps to understand kind of the different elements and variables you're playing with. But you can ask almost you don't have to be in the military.
Let's
think tactically about this.
Up the mountains, they've maybe not mountaineered like the 10th Mountain Division, but they've definitely gone up and down hills, and they've been through the shit. But yeah, you definitely have a point. The mechanization that we rely on today is a no-go in North Korea. Plus, we invade China and come down from the north. Hey, good point. Yep. Yep, you're right.
Yeah.
And that's gonna.
And it's, you know, and it's one thing I
That's
noticed
gonna have a
today.
huge
One of
impact
the
on
local
how we
news stations,
fight.
WAFF, will put up something about initiating a draft in the event that we
Listen,
went to North
I may
Korea.
not have been in the military,
And so
but
I was,
have
you know,
studied
doing my
how,
typical WAFF.
how
Another
we go
analogy,
about,
like this is
you
a
know,
lot more people
fighting.
Yeah, it's
know
just- it was
this,
great.
right?
But it's sad. It's sad to see, you know, kind of
you're
ties us
a-
back into more of a liberty
say you're a
perspective. You know,
professional or
that's
even an
one thing. The
amateur, like
majority of
MMA fighter,
liberty-minded people
kickboxer or something,
are pretty much
and you get
anti-war unless
into a bar
absolutely
fight with 3 or 4
necessary. I mean,
guys,
this is not.
you
It's
have
not
a pretty
a
good
go-to
opportunity
That's what
to
we're
knock
knee-jerk
your career
reaction.
out, and then the last
But
guy's
it's
gonna
sad
run.
to see
But if
that
those
there's a
4 guys
gross majority.
are really good at fighting in a bar, you don't have a fucking chance. You know, so I mean, so there's that analogy, and that's you can draw lines there too. So who knows? Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe.
Oh, can you see me now? Oh, okay. All right. Anyways, so it's a sad statement to see how many people. Am I gone?
Got him.
Oh, okay. You laughed. I'm like, mother of God. I've dropped again. I don't know. For anybody in the northern Alabama region, WoW is not a great service to have for internet. I've been fighting this thing.
Oh
all
yes,
day
I
with these
saw
guys.
that.
I don't know. Really? No. I mean, Mediacom's
God damn
not
it.
I have Mediacom and WoW, and they both. I'm like, I don't like either one. Yeah,
Here
right.
we go. Can you hear me, Horace?
Yeah, I don't know. Something's got to give. Net neutrality or something. I don't know. But anyway, so like I was saying, trying to finish up this
I'm
point
getting
is that there's a
getting
large
300
amount of
megabits
people
right
in the
now.
state of Alabama who are all for initiating a draft
Yeah.
and sending more people overseas to be killed
Okay.
as
Yeah.
long as it's not them.
Next week,
What were you saying?
right? You know,
It's so funny
before
to see the
show,
comments
all
saying we
three
should
of
send
us
these
need to reset
degenerates
all of
over
our
there and
equipment.
make them join the military. I'm like, why don't you go? If you are so gung ho for this, volunteer to go. You know, I will pay for you to have an
I'm not gonna
M16. I will
test mine
pull that out of
without-
my own pocket.
It would
Why
probably
don't you
kill it
go
more than
carry
it
your
is.
ass to North Korea while you go be a badass and let the people who don't want to do it.
Yes.
Oh my God, they'd wet their panties.
They're also very great. They have great service.
No, I was reading one of the chat things.
Mediacom's a fucking that's the pits.
Oh, it depends on where you are. Here in Decatur, they rock. Yes.
Yeah, they go. You go.
They're,
And that's
we
fine.
have
I'm
Charter
totally
WoW.
cool with that. I mean, if you know, you look at it from a self-ownership
Yeah.
perspective, you want to go, you want to do it, go for it. Knock yourself out. Don't be tapping on the guy next door who doesn't want to go, wants
Right.
no parts of this mess, and realizes it's a shitstorm that I have no business being a part of.
No,
Well,
they couldn't
Right.
be in the military.
Exactly.
because as soon as that drill sergeant got in
It
their face, they'd
changes
punch
the
them,
game for
right?
everybody. It's
Fucking
okay to
different.
play with other people's
Yeah.
money. It's okay to play with other people's lives. But when it comes to your life and
Yeah.
your money, oh, there's a fucking problem there.
You know, it would. It would require now. This is an idea for us to live in. And it would require a constitutional amendment. It would shift on whether to go to war, send troops, whatever, into whatever conflict away from Congress
Mhm.
and put it back in the hands of the people. I think Congress
Exactly.
could call for a referendum on it, but it goes back to the people.
Well, technically speaking, if you don't
everyone who
have privates, you
votes
don't have a
yes,
fucking army. Otherwise, NCOs would just
They're
tell
the
each other what
first
to
ones
do,
to go.
and nobody would do anything. But
Yeah.
probably, you know, that's one thing my platoon sergeant asked. You know, we were talking one day. He's like, you know, and he's like, look, privates run the army. If it wasn't for privates, nothing would ever get fucking done. I was like, coming from an E7, that's pretty respectable. I can handle that.
Yeah, but I mean,
Yeah, and
how
no
many
one
people
takes
are going to
the
vote
analytical
yes, knowing
approach
that
from the Army
if
side
it
of
passes,
what happens
they're
with the
going to have to
draft,
go.
and we've seen it every time there was a draft. You get the dregs of society, you get the best of society, you get a little bit of everybody. But the problem is when it comes time to start promoting people to stripes and into the backbone of the Army, especially the Marine Corps, you pick a service, doesn't matter. But when it comes time to promote someone to stripes, that's when they start getting out. And you completely deplete the NCO core of the Army, which is the backbone of the Army. If you don't have NCOs, you don't have a fucking Army. And that's you're right. How would the sandbags get filled?
Maybe, I don't. Probably. Hey, yeah. I'm not advocating for us to go in. I'm just simply saying let's look at this from a little more of a logical perspective and not an emotional perspective.
Yeah, that's true too.
Right.
I just the draft thing is just so asinine, especially when it comes time
potential
for
outcomes,
hot button shit like 9/11.
If we get into any type of military,
counted the number of recruits prior to 9/11
military operations.
It
really hinges on who,
and then after 9/11,
goes first.
any given day.
Yeah.
Because I know
assuming that we
since
we have a history of going in first, let's assume that we do.
It was simply that.
I see it being stacked. That was the same for a lot of young, NATO. NATO will provide some sort of support, maybe like 3 guys to help with supply from New Zealand or from the Netherlands.
So I'm starting to believe that this is not
NATO out, in this part of the world. Like I think on the border on the JSA, which is the base on the exact border of North and South Korea, had 2 people from the EU, and they both were from Sweden.
And I just got a thing.
That was a great show of force. Thanks for trying. Anyway, so the U.S., NATO, of course, the UK is always
I have
to
a
get
pin
in
speed going
on something
right
like
now.
this.
I'm
Japan will jump in because
they're
allies and they have a vested interest.
I'm
South Korea as well.
Maybe something on the
but I wouldn't be surprised to see the Philippines kind of get involved. I know the Philippines have been having some issues with the Chinese government, and I think they're kind of with Duarte or whatever his name is, kind of being the renegade. I could see him kind of jumping in, throwing in some soldiers to assist in this as well.
Yeah.
And then also,
let's go to potential.
It really depends on India. I don't know if India how much they would throw in, but that's the 4th biggest army in the world. So maybe, and maybe Canada to an extent. I don't know, but that's where I kind of see like the U.S. alliance being on that side. On the other side, North Korea and China, of course. I was kind of doing some reading. Mongolia is very dependent on China. I think 89% of all their exports go straight to China. So from an economic standpoint, they need China. So they would send like 5,000 of the 35,000 standing army over there. I wouldn't be surprised to see Iran jump in to assist China. China and Iran have been getting really buddy over the past couple of years, and so to help maintain the flow of crude oil to China. I wouldn't be surprised to see Iran and Pakistan actually, because Pakistan and China have been getting along a lot better here recently, and Pakistan hates India, so you got a massive grudge match across. So that's kind of how I see a lot of the countries kind of lining up from the military perspective. Economically, you kind of expound on that a little bit. Right. Because you have nuclear powers. Exactly. And I see Russia falling back. I see Russia, not wanting to get their hands dirty. They'll protect their own. They'll protect their borders. Make sure North Korea doesn't, do anything too stupid. And just let these two countries or two forces battle it out. And in the meantime, they'll be kind of doing an in run around.
Yes.
And creating their own alliance. More so in economic, not so much in a military, but kind of build themselves up economically while everybody else is distracted with what's going on in the Korean Peninsula.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, India hates Pakistan.
I do, but a lot of those Eastern Bloc countries are still very reliant on Russia, especially from a natural gas perspective. And I don't know if you, you remember
those
about a
last
year
two,
or so
though,
ago,
India and Pakistan, if they
I
get
want to say it was
involved,
either Latvia or
that's when
Lithuania
things can potentially get
imposed some
really
sort of economic
ugly
sanctions
really
against Russia,
fast,
and they pretty much turned
because
off
those are both
their
nuclear
access
nations.
to natural gas, which caused a crisis.
And
You know, in the wintertime in that area, it's cold, and so yeah, they may be NATO nations, but they're not. They're not really like screw you, Russia, we don't need you. They'll be kind of like, let's just make sure we don't piss Russia off too much because they're right across the border.
well,
But that would raise the prices so much because if you look at Saudi Arabia and Russia, they're
that
both
I don't
logistically
think
a lot
Russia would get
closer.
involved,
Therefore,
'cause I'm
be able
looking at the
to
list of
cut the
NATO
costs
members right now.
of actual logistics
And,
of getting it through their pipelines.
just if Russia gets involved, even if they had sat back before, the following countries would almost certainly step in at that point.
Yeah,
Albania,
that's a whole
Bulgaria,
other. What
Czech
do you think,
Republic,
Halston?
Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, Romania, Slovakia. Do you see a common
You do.
denominator there? Mm. Mm. Yeah.
Mm.
Well, this is true, but on the flip side, as far as natural gas, the U.S. is currently the #1 exporter of natural gas in the world. Uh,
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely a domino effect, no doubt about
Some,
it.
yes.
Pretty much all the
and
grudges will come
we're
out
on the
at once.
way to becoming the
And
#2
there'll be-
exporter
there'll
of
be, like,
oil in the
lines
world,
drawn all over the sand.
behind
And
Venezuela.
one country you can't really push aside is Vietnam. People be like, oh, Vietnam's nothing. Vietnam's got a 5 million man army. So and they don't.
I mean,
they're not really all that
I
friendly
would
with
see
China,
this go.
even though they're both
I do
communist
see
countries.
this going nuclear rather
So
quickly.
that's that right there is
yeah,
kind of like
I
a
just-
wild card on whose side that they would
with
fall
so
on.
many itchy. I think
and
there
just
are
the
a ton
overall
of itchy
fallout.
trigger fingers when you have
Maybe
when you have so many countries that
they have closer
no
ties to
real-
Russia than they do with
real
China.
tangible vested interest in United States versus North Korea. Right? There's not much you can touch there and be like, hey, you know what? I think that there's a tie here or there. You can't draw too many lines from all these other countries, but they hate each other so much. That's where that article I mentioned to you guys, I couldn't find
China.
it, but it's a blog post on one of the blogs. But it
That I'm aware
mentions
of.
something
I'm not
like
sure
that.
with some of the other
If you
smaller
were-
Southeast Asians.
if and when we go to war with North Korea, right, and China decides to side with North Korea and they come into and add some troops, then you start having the people who don't like China getting pissed at China. Then you have the people who are pissed at them get pissed at them, and then all of a sudden this all becomes nuclear really quickly. From people who had nothing to do with North Korea and the United States.
Not so much.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, and that's a fair assessment too. Because if you look just, and we'll kind of just tag on this, and maybe not make it a long topic, but the communism that China and the communism that Vietnam have are not they're communist in name only, because they rely very heavily on capitalism.
I think
They have
they
a
would set it
have
out.
strong markets.
Well, here,
but also Vietnam's #1 export to the United
I was
States.
thinking about Vietnam
shoes.
earlier.
The
Because
majority of shoes
there
are either made in
aren't too
China
many,
or Vietnam.
communist countries remaining
And-
over there. As far as the smaller countries, basically what, North Korea and Vietnam?
Yeah, exactly.
Smaller
So,
countries.
but China has kind of taken upon itself to be the leader
Yeah.
of communism for the
I
world.
think most of them have
When
gotten
other
rid of
countries
done up
just can't
communist
step up to the plate. I mean, like look at
regimes
Cuba. Cuba's
picked up
used to be kind
various,
of like
different
the
governmental
after
systems.
the
But
big communist
I was
country.
thinking about the
Aside
two. They're
from
both
the
communist
USSR, when the
countries.
USSR fell, it's
But
kind of
with
like who's going
Vietnam,
to fill this void, and China
if
stepped in
you
and
want to
filled it.
go over there and as a tourist, you're more than welcome. They're happy to have tourists. North Korea, not so much. I mean, the two countries, despite being communist, are
As long as the
night
Central
and
Party
day.
wants it to, or until they're overthrown. Yeah. Maybe.
Yep.
yes.
Well, I think we can even say that now for even just from just modern day versus the way it used to be based on the history books, or even back in the 80s. You know,
and
China's
both
softened up a
countries
lot
produce
more
millionaires and
now than they
billionaires,
had in
too.
the 80s,
That's another thing.
and they're
That's-
softer than they were.
I don't know
when
too
it was
many
founded.
ballers showing up at the strip club from North Korea.
So I mean, it's quite possible. Will it actually kind of evolve into a more, I guess, civilly free, more of a stronger civil liberty type state? Maybe.
Yeah.
Who knows? Yeah. You talking about Foxconn?
Yeah.
Yep.
And I mean, I question how long China is going to remain communist. I think it's just
they better just downshift to socialism.
Yeah. It would be really tough to dig them out of that.
well, no, I think as the younger people move up in the party,
Authoritative.
they're not going to have the same hardline
Authoritative.
stances,
Okay.
and it's going to soften over time, and eventually it's just going to be like, why are we even doing this?
Yeah. Maybe so.
Yeah.
It's just like you said too, with the younger audience coming up, that may change with the access to technology and the access to ideas.
Yep.
Once you open up technology, when ideas spread around, it's kind of hard to put them out. It's like fire. Oh yeah, that's what.
Probably not, but then
I mean,
again,
they won't even let them kill themselves. Fucking nets up.
I'm just not a fan of these. And looking at it, trying to explain to my kids, I don't know why we're going to war. I don't know why people want to go to war. I don't know why it's the first response to anything.
Any kind of government
we haven't
outside of
really
communism,
done anything
they'll probably go
aside
back
from
to something similar
give them
to
the
the
finger
Middle
and say, go ahead and start some shit. We'll finish it.
they
for
may.
you.
But I think
there's really been
they'll
no
probably have
diplomatic relations
one,
between the two countries in a
one
very long time. And in all fairness, both sides are being real dicks about some things.
Carrion, ruler, because that's what China's used to. They have never lost that Middle Kingdom complex. I don't think they ever will. It is too ingrained in their very culture.
Did you guys watch the interview? Yes. Yeah, if you haven't seen the movie, you need to see that because
give
it
all
was
those
actually
little fuckers iPhones.
didn't North Korea say they're going to throw
North
nukes
Korea,
at us
just
for releasing that
just
movie
give
or
them
something
all
like
iPhones.
that? They're
They'll
always
throw
throwing
that little
nukes
chunky
over
bastard
something.
in that heartbeat.
Yeah, and I almost went like straight, and like I think it went straight to like DVD, straight to Netflix. I was like, yeah, sweet. So.
Yeah.
Maybe it just depends on how
I
ingrained
have
everything
long-
is. We don't necessarily always know the ins and outs of the way that
Oh,
government
yeah.
works. So
You
secluded
know, I have
that we
long
don't
thought
know
that
what their
when it comes
contingency
down
plans
to
are.
it, rather than going to war, a much
So,
better
maybe
solution
it could
when
be that
a country is, you
if
know,
that, then this could
especially
be even a worse scenario than
one
what we have now.
that's ruled by a single individual or even a small group, that, you know, where it's very tightly controlled. That one of the best solutions possible, you know, is get someone inside. 50 BMG solves a lot of problems.
That's the way it's been. That's the
Yeah.
way it's been for a very long time.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, it ain't gonna stop with North
Maybe.
Korea. Let's
Yeah.
No.
that's true.
Yeah, and Sony blacklisted it or something for a while. Straight to DVD. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, man.
But no, I mean, to me, a sniper can do more good and solve problems quicker than an army can.
Yep.
Weaponized
Too rich
map,
for my
baby.
blood.
Because, you know,
Too rich.
you kill the head, the body dies.
Well, that's what I'm saying. That's what. Oh! It's getting hot in here.
No, true.
Okay. All right, guys. So we got a few minutes left. Let's roll into Dick of the Week.
Anything's
All right. So
possible.
last
but,
week's
you know,
Dick of the Week actually got some pretty good
me,
feedback. So we're gonna keep on
taking
this whole
out
Dick of the
the
Week thing
people who
until
are
we
giving
play
the
it
orders,
as
know,
much as we can.
uh,
All right.
makes
So
more sense
who wants to introduce this
than
this week's
killing
Dick
a
of the
bunch
Week?
of grunts who don't have a choice.
I got his
Yes.
badge number here.
Yeah, it ain't gonna stop today. Nobody makes money off.
It's
of sniper
it's UC Berkeley
no, some-
police officer S.
Some do. 'Cause I saw
Aranus,
one the other day.
number
It was
76. So that's how
it's
we're
an
going to make out the
old
certificate
rifle,
when
but
I
it's
post it
making
online.
a comeback.
There it
and I
is
forget
right
the
there. If you
company
guys
that
can see it.
makes
Yep. S. Aranus, number
and
76.
it makes a 50
So, in case you guys
BMG look like
Haven't heard
you
this.
know, a 22
this is
rimfire.
one of the probably the
It's
biggest
either
things
a
that probably
20 or
happened in the past
30
week.
millimeter sniper rifle.
Hot dog vendor, UC Berkeley,
Yeah, that guy's making
was
some money. though.
detained,
You know,
I guess, in a way,
it's like
by the
50 bucks
UC Berkeley
a
Police
shell.
Department for
Yeah,
not having
they
the
can-
proper permit to sell hot dogs at a
can
game.
keep
You know, but this
And
thing will
the
shoot
police
out to
officer
2
then
miles
decided
easy.
to go in and take his wallet and take the
Shit, I can do
$60
that
out
with
of
a
his
wrist
wallet
rocket.
as quote unquote evidence,
Yeah,
which is
yeah.
nothing more than civil asset forfeiture, and then gave
All
him a
right.
citation.
Pick of the week, guys.
Well, apparently the internet found out about this. Somebody videotaped it, and if anybody out there videotape video police officers doing their job, it is you have the right to do it. Multiple courts have weighed in on this. You do not be intimidated by it. Videotape them, because somebody actually did. People went to the internet, would set up a GoFundMe.
I don't
Dude
know his
raised
fucking name.
$62,000
know he's a dick.
last time I checked, somewhere in that ballpark.
I remember
No.
seeing the name somewhere, but I don't remember where.
Yeah. Okay, right. Yeah, yep. Oh, wow. Okay. Well, cool. I mean, that's awesome. At least he said, hopefully he's going to be honest about it. And supposedly it's supposed to go, based on one of the reports I read, to help pay his legal costs, as well as, get just extra money for him to be able to buy 2 more hot dog carts and expand that motherfucker out a little bit. Mm-hmm. Which is awesome, and it's stuff like that for me, anyways, that gives me a little bit more of a little more hope for humanity and people actually kind of coming together to say, okay, this is messed up. We're going to help people out. Halston, you got something on this? Dick, you're a dick.
I saw 74, but the the guy who's actually raising the funds, because I actually went to the
this
GoFundMe.
is apparently
is the
this
guy
is the type
that
of
took the
stuff
video.
that give like the 5% of good
And
cops that
he
are out
is
there
trying
a really,
to find
really bad
hot
name
dog
and shit
guy.
like this. You know,
Now.
you take
The hot dog vendor
okay,
now.
well, but still, you take the badge, and then you're like, I can do whatever the hell I want to now. I have this badge, I have this gun, I have this small penis. I can do whatever the hell I want to do. And so, if that means taking money out of your wallet, I can do
Reimburse
it
him.
because you're going to stop me? I'll just stop.
Well, not just that.
No,
but,
now too. Was it a
any
bicycle
money
or a
left
Segway?
over,
That's
he plans to find
that is the
other
question on
people
the table
in
right
similar
now.
circumstances and use it to help
So
them
yes,
as well.
UC Berkeley officer S. Aranis number 76 will be receiving a wonderful, wonderful certificate made by us, sent out by us. And if you haven't seen what the certificate looks like, go back to our Facebook page. You'll see last week's when we posted Sam McClure, the Attorney General hopeful of the state of Alabama, and his zealotry.
There wasn't any other.
Anything to add to this Dick of the Week story?
This is a quote from him. This is law and order in action. Thank you for your support. Get the fuck out.
No.
Get the fuck out.
Yeah. That is not law and order.
That cunt of the week. This has got to be a cunt of the week.
Wow. Please. Go for it.
Bitch, you're wearing a helmet on a bicycle. Get the fuck out of here, you big pussy. We probably said that. Either way, he's a bitch.
Yes.
Well, I will comment on this, and hopefully this doesn't extend the show any too much longer because Halston looks like he's about to pass the fuck out over there. But cops have the option.
Not really.
To turn a blind eye. They're not required to enforce.
It demonstrated that
there's plenty of laws that they see on a daily basis. They choose not to.
Well,
I pass cops every single day. I don't wear a seatbelt.
I'm concerned.
I pass cops.
They are the largest group of violent thugs.
Get the fuck out of here. Exactly. They can pick and choose what they want to enforce. So if they're going to enforce some of the small nitpicky stuff just to be able to make a quota, just be able to get some extra ground points with their command.
Hang on, I gotta take my glasses off for this.
I would like to believe that there are decent, good cops out there who aren't going to arrest a 17-year-old kid for having a joint in his back pocket and ruin his life because he wants to smoke Charlie.
And allegedly
that's my hope. That's my dream. That's my fantasy, if you will. That's what I go to sleep thinking about at night.
All of them.
Not really.
Two, many of the laws are manifestly unjust, and some are even cruel and wicked.
Oh, I get that. I totally get that point.
Agreed to act as an enforcer for laws that are manifestly unjust or even cruel.
The role itself,
there
totally get that.
No
but the person behind the role, I like to think that there's at least 5% of the entire police force that are actually good, decent people who eventually get out, who eventually get out of the police force and get a job as something else, a bus driver. Sometimes the best, or I guess what, I don't know where I was going with that, but I forget that.
Fucking 6 hot dog vendors.
I'm starting to fade too because I've been up for quite a while as well. So I guess we should call it. What do you think, Halston? Fuck bicycle cops. That's Horace. You got anything else to add? All right, guys. Well, this has been yet another hour you have wasted listening to us ramble on and on. You could have been doing better things like maybe your taxes if they're late or masturbating, whatever. But thank you, Steve, for hanging in there with us. Everybody else was in here bounced. Have a great night. We'll see you guys next week.
Well, Sorry, I mean, for me, as long as they are the primary agents of the state, then, no good cops. They may be, but that doesn't mean though that they're a good cop just because they're a good person.
Fuck bicycle cops.
Not that I can think of. Oh.
Later, guys.
Okay. Good night, all.